Gold Dinar of Medina. Overview of the Dinar movement. It sounds hard to believe that this tiny piece of metal holds the key to the economic well-being and financial freedom of millions and millions of Muslims around the world. But what is even harder to believe is the futile hope and millions of dollars and the endless amount of valuable time of our scholars that was put in perfecting the oxymoronic practice of Islamic banking, only to see it crumble at both the ideological and practical levels.
I was recently witness to a meeting between many of the leading Islamic finance scholars. They were discussing a particular Islamic finance product. The product itself sought to copy the effects of a conventional financial derivative. Upon looking at the product structure, one of the scholars, considered by many as the leading mufti of the Islamic finance industry, went on to say, "Ila mata wa ila aina?" For how long will we continue in this direction, and where are we headed? He also went on to say that the Islamic finance industry has become a complete imitation of its conventional counterpart. Here are some quotes. Saleh Kamal, the founder of the Dala Al-Baraka Group, in his acceptance speech for the IDB Bank Prize in 1996, went on to say, "I tell you truthfully and without pretense that we went beyond choosing the bank label in Islamic banking to the point of adopting its central essence. Consequently, we failed to give our financial institutions any characteristics beyond simple financial intermediation. This has now been accomplished through Islamic banks' favorite investment modes that are essentially a hybrid between loans and investments, a hybrid which carries most of the characteristics of usurious loans." Mufti Taqi, in his paper on Sukuk, said, "Undoubtedly, Sharia supervisory boards, academic councils, and legal seminars have given permission to Islamic banks to carry out certain operations that more closely resemble stratagems, legal stratagems, than actual transactions. When I first started working in Islamic finance, I was introduced to terms I had never come across before in my limited studies of the Sharia. I was told of the Sharia plug. What's a Sharia plug? I remember asking. I was given a look of naivety, i.e. I'm obviously a new joiner in the industry. The idea was this is a mechanism of using special techniques we've derived that allow something that would otherwise be haram to be halal. I looked at the person and I said, "But isn't innamal a'malu binniyah? Aren't actions by intentions?" It seemed I was speaking a different language because I was rapidly ignored.
Those who are attacking us operate with PhDs in deception. If there are 10 Muslims and they're able to get 6 of them to borrow money and interest from the bank to buy a house or to buy a car or to build an Islamic school, 4 Muslims have resisted. So they're not content until they come and get those 4. وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودَ وَلَا النَّصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِيَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. They want to get the other 4 now. The ones who want to remain faithful to Allah and His Messenger. So how do they get them? They get them with something called an Islamic bank. Yes, an Islamic bank. Guess what the Islamic bank does? I have to tell you this one before I finish. What the Islamic bank does, 9 times out of 10, is to give you backdoor riba.
One only has to understand the very basic teachings of the Quran and the workings of modern finance to realize that riba is not just a procedural feature of the bank, but a fundamental constituent of its underlying monetary edifice, the fiat money currency. This is the chief reason why Islamic banking has failed, because scholars adept at religious rulings were unaware of the complete picture of how modern banking works, especially its most critical piece, the monetary or currency connection. The modern Islamic bank remains irrevocably un-Islamic because it operates on the same prohibited practices of riba, gharar, sale of debt, and fractional reserve, as well as such dubious distortions of Islamic contracts like cost-plus financing. Riba from our society will never be eliminated by Islamic banking, but only by our rejection of the usurious paper currency and returning to Rasul Allah's sunnah of commodity money, the sunnah of the currency of Medina. This is the story of that small piece of metal that passed through the blessed hands of the Holy Prophet that is now successfully winning us the war against riba and winning us back our right and freedom to choose how we conduct our business after centuries of monetary enslavement and deception. This is the story of the gold dinar. At the surface, the gold dinar is just that, a gold coin, nothing more and nothing less. In this sense too, however, it's significant as being the newest and distinctly Middle Eastern addition to the global lineup of bullion coins. We already had the gold eagle and the buffalo from the United States. The Krugerrand from South Africa, the maple leaf from Canada, the Philharmonic from Austria, the gold sovereign from Britain, and the gold panda from the People's Republic of China. To this mix come the newest entrants to the bullion coins market, the gold dinar and the silver dirham series, unique in being produced under the same standards in multiple countries, including the Arab Emirates, Indonesia, South Africa, and very recently through private mints in the United States. Thus, from its very birth, the gold dinar transcended national boundaries and symbolized the underlying unity of the Islamic Ummah. Apart from its novelty as the first supranational standard of bullion coins, the symbolic significance of the gold dinar derives from another source very close to the hearts of the Muslim world, the Holy Quran. The dinar and the dirham are the only two currencies mentioned directly in the Holy Book, in chapter Ali Imran, verse 75, and chapter Yusuf, verse 20. A mention itself does not imply any juristic endorsement as such, but definitely establishes a very strong emotional bond between it and the followers of Islam. A bond greatly enhanced by the fact that it was the same dinar and the dirham which has passed through the blessed hands of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions. It is this dinar which he had earned, spent, and traded. It is this dinar which is his sunnah to use as money. The name dinar was originally taken by the Arabs from the Roman denarius. Similarly, the silver dirham came to the Arab world from the Persians, where its usage had been derived from the earlier Greek coin, drachma. These coins were used in Arabia in 610 AD, when Muhammad bin Abdullah received his first revelation, and thus set in motion a chain of events culminating in the creation of Islam's first model welfare state in the city of Medina. It was this city which, for the first time in world history, demonstrated not only the viability, but the resounding success and practicality of a real-world economic system that operated completely on riba-free, interest-free basis, without any major tax except the zakat, employing kirad and masharaka contracts, and most importantly, using open currencies that settled with near universal consensus to gold dinar and silver dirhams, along with regional staples like dates and wheat. In addition, this model ensured open access for everyone to the marketplace and to all trading and distribution channels without discrimination or undue regulatory hindrances. This small city became the nucleus of an economic marvel of its time that would lead the Arab civilization to become a hub of global economic activity. And the success of this society depended on a single factor, the same factor which is always the only necessary ingredient to real economic progress: increased production and manufacturing, increased agricultural output, and increased trade. All of which became possible because the non-productive avenues of capital appreciation through usury and the usurious system of financial derivatives were shut down, causing capital flow into real productive uses. This activity in the means of production is how countries and economies are built. And in lip service at least, everyone seems to agree.
We built this country by making things, by producing goods we could sell. We did it with sweat and effort and innovation. We did it on the assembly line and at the construction site. We did it by investing in the people who built this country from the ground up. The workers, middle-class families, small business owners. We outworked folks, and we out-educated folks, and we out-competed everybody else. That's how we built America.
The real economy of America, as the president says, was built with toil and labor of real people, and not the phony economy projected on paper and built with the printing presses of the central banks. But it's always the lure of usurious fiat money, the same play of riba and gharar-based derivative instruments that cause imbalances which ultimately bring these economies down, like one that we just witnessed in the United States.
Government's only legitimate reason for existence is to protect innocent life and property from aggression, foreign or domestic. When it deliberately destroys the money, government is acting perversely by harming innocent life and property. Short of intentional war, inflation is the most immoral act political leaders can commit. The legalized counterfeiting, which is inflation, must be ended now. Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson, the presidents who were our greatest defenders of the common man, were such unalterable opponents of paper money. Gold is the most perfect medium, said Jefferson, because it will preserve its own level. Because, having intrinsic and universal value, it can never die in our hands. Paper money is liable to be abused, has been, is, and forever will be abused in every country in which it is permitted. Expansion of the money supply through spurious paper currency, noted Jackson, is always attended by a loss to the laboring classes. Of all the contrivances for cheating the laboring classes of mankind, added Daniel Webster, none has been found more effectual than that which deludes them with paper money. By continuing process of inflation, governments can confiscate, secretly and unobserved, an important part of the wealth of their citizens, says John Maynard Keynes. It is no coincidence that the 19th century, a time of gold coin standards for the most part, was an era of peace. Nor is it a coincidence that the 20th century combines wars with paper money. Everyone who believes in freedom must work diligently for sound money, fully redeemable. Nothing else is compatible with the humanitarian goals of peace and prosperity.
The world is learning this lesson the hard way, that the only true form of economic progress is through the real economy and not a paper economy. A lesson that came to us 1400 years ago in one simple verse brought to us by Muhammad. God has permitted trade and forbidden usury. Inasmuch as the gold dinars and dirhams constituted the monetary foundations of Medina's economy, and since it is being proposed today as the only viable alternative to riba, we can safely say that our story of the gold dinar starts in Medina in the year 632 AD, when one of the last verses of the Quran was revealed, conclusively prohibiting riba, like a jewel in the crown of the most brilliant economic orders ever conceived. Muslim jurists claim that Islamic prohibition of usury is merely a continuation or refinement of similar disdain toward the practice in the earlier Judeo-Christian traditions. In fact, the Arabic word riba used in the Quran is similar to its Hebrew counterpart ribbit used in the Old Testament. For example, the biblical teachings regarding money lending in a passage in Exodus chapter 22, verse 24 go as follows. When you lend money to any of my people, to the poor among you, you shall not be to him as a creditor, nor shall you impose upon him any interest. In the Catholic tradition also, St. Thomas Aquinas writes in his Summa Theologica, to take usury for money lent is unjust in itself, because this is to sell what does not exist, and this evidently leads to inequality, which is contrary to justice. And Canon 13 of the Second Lateran Council in 1139 AD goes as far as to say, and we sever them, usurers, from every comfort of the Church. Let them be held infamous throughout their whole lives, and unless they repent, be deprived of a Christian burial. The Quran, however, has been the most explicit and forceful in its prohibition of riba, declaring war against those who persist in taking it, and defining usurers as those who have been driven to insanity by the touch of Satan.
الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله ومن عاد فأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون.
Those who swallow usury cannot rise up save as he ariseth whom the devil hath prostrated by his touch. That is because they say, trade is just like usury, whereas Allah permitteth trading and forbiddeth usury. He unto whom an admonition from his Lord cometh, and he refraineth in obedience thereto, he shall keep the profits of that which is past, and his affair henceforth is with Allah. As for him who returneth to usury, such are rightful owners of the fire, they will abide therein.
Such a strong stance against usury directly in the Quran and oral traditions of the Prophet is even today allowing Islam to withstand the onslaught of moneylenders who wish to replicate with Islam the success they have had with the Christian Church, which gradually succumbed to their demands by accepting the dubious differentiation between usury and interest. Coming back to Medina, we see that there existed the most open market of all times, allowing the people to freely choose whatever commodity they wished to adopt as a medium of exchange, without the shackles of any legal tender laws. The people, by their free will, galvanized towards a few stable commodities and precious metals, with dates, gold, and silver leading the way. In the long run, the gold dinar and silver dirham were chosen by the market as the de facto currencies of this society. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him himself, continued to use the dinars in their contemporary form. But as the prestige and economic influence of Medina increased, Caliph Omar Farouk, may Allah be pleased with him, became the first Muslim ruler to Islamize the gold dinar. He had the words Bismillah inscribed on them, and regularized the weights and measures of these coins, setting a standard which was historically followed ever since, and even today, 1400 years on, it is this standard which is inspiring the modern revival of the gold dinar and silver dirhams. Thus, the gold dinar is to be the equivalent of 4.25 grams of 22-karat gold, and the silver dirham to be 2.975 grams of 0.999 fine silver. The dirham is often being approximated at 3 grams by mints to compensate for wear and tear, and to ensure that at least the standard weight of silver is always present. For the next 61 years, these coins continued to be used with Bismillah inscribed on them. This changed in the year 695 AD, when Caliph Abdul Malik bin Marwan commissioned a project to fully revamp the coins to a patently Islamic design, and also issued the first silver dirhams. From then on, the sana money of the gold dinar and silver dirhams became a regular fixture of the Islamic economy, changing their designs as rulers came and new empires appeared, but always maintaining their essential characteristics. This is one of the oldest gold dinars preserved, of the Umayyad Caliph al-Walid of around 88 al-Hijra. The gold dinar of the Abbasid Caliph al-Muqtadir, 318 al-Hijra. Dinar of the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim, 399 al-Hijra. Another Fatimid coin of al-Amir, 500 al-Hijra. And of course, the gold dinar passed through the hands of the great Muslim general and sultan, the epitome of chivalry and honor. The celebrated Sultan al-Malik al-Nasir Salahuddin Yusuf bin Ayyub, also known as Saladin. The coin under his reign in 581 al-Hijra. The gold dinar is also intertwined with the history of the great Ottoman Empire, the sublime Osmanli Dawlat. The gold coins of Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, circa 926 al-Hijra, and the Ottoman Sultan Mahmud at 1143 al-Hijra. The tradition in the Muslim world has always been for the coins to be produced by a mint, usually operated on a waqf basis, an Islamic version of the non-profit charity. All these coins were mandated to be exchangeable one-to-one with those of any other mint, and their weights and quality were overseen by the Qadi or the Amir, possessing executive authority to ensure compliance to standards. This first phase of the Sharia currency of gold dinar coincided in its lifeline with the Islamic Caliphate, both institutions constituting the cornerstones of the Islamic economic and political orders respectively. When the Ottoman Caliphate was disbanded in 1922, it officially ended the existence of the gold dinar as a medium of exchange and currency, to be replaced by the usurious fiat currencies of the Western banking and monetary system. In spite of being in the weaker position of a subdued nation, Muslim scholars immediately raised red flags over the introduction of paper currencies instead of gold and silver. And the jurist Abdullah ibn Abdurrahman al-Bassam summarized 4 different positions that the scholars of the day adopted. 1. Some claimed it was absolutely unlawful to deal with paper money. This, he writes, was the strongest view at the time. 2. Some said we should deal with it as we deal in gold and silver, because paper money can be replaced with gold on demand. Even if a legitimate position at the time, this view is no longer possible, because redemption of specie has long been discontinued in today's paper money. 3. Some argued that we should deal with it as we deal in commodities, but this position is also not applicable today because of the legal tender laws. And 4. Some jurists said that we should deal with it as we deal in fulus, that is, discounted from the Sharia definition of mal. It is interesting to note that it is the lingering effect of this position that many people in the Indian subcontinent and abroad shy away from buying gold because there is zakat to be paid in gold, but not on paper. Treatment as fulus is also not possible anymore because of legal tender laws, requiring them to be treated as wealth, which fulus traditionally was not. It is abundantly clear that with one position totally rejecting paper money and 3 others accepting them on conditions none of which are true anymore, fiat money had practically been rejected wholesale by early Sharia scholars who were confronted with the problem. By the time when most of the Muslim world regained independence around the mid-20th century, the politics of colonialism and incapacity of enslavement had so firmly embedded the fiat currency infrastructure in our economies that it was impossible to immediately shut it off en masse. Each Muslim country now featured a central bank, which created fiat paper currencies through a set of patently usurious transactions between the government treasury and central banks, the simplest of which is the discounted sale of debt, which even a freshman in Islamic finance knows to have been prohibited by such eminent scholars like Justice Taqi Usmani of Pakistan. As Muslim scholars set out to develop alternatives to the Western banking system, the task became particularly formidable for lack of any precedents of this kind available from the earlier teachings. Banking was a totally new concept for many scholars. The ulema who understood Sharia did not understand banking, and Muslim financial experts who understood banking were clueless about the Sharia. The resulting reaction was thus the most natural one to be expected in this case, an impulsive attempt to cosmetically Islamize banking without realizing the underlying currency connection. Modern monetary structure is based on usury and the dictatorial legal tender laws, both prohibited in Islam. Islamic banking is thus as oxymoronic of a term as an Islamic terrorist, there being no possibility of either of them being Islamic, unless the bank completely overhauls its operations to drop usury from all aspects, including the currency it deals with. As the early Islamic economists and scholars were busy solving the Islamic banking conundrum, a young Scotsman named Ian Dallas was traveling to Morocco, where he converted to Islam under a new Muslim name, Abdul Qadir as-Sufi. He was destined to play a pivotal role in debunking the fallacy of Islamic banking and calling for a return to the true Islamic economic order based on muamalat, the conduct of business affairs, as exemplified by the companions of the Holy Prophet in Medina, starting, of course, with the monetary base of the gold dinar. Islam is not and can never be by definition in crisis or need of revisionist change, begins his seminal piece of writing, Root Islamic Education. This book, along with another published in 1989 from Norwich, United Kingdom, Usury, the Root Cause of Injustices of Our Time, gave the world a solid case and Islamic basis for a return to the gold dinar, arguing that without adoption of Sunnah currency, usury is impossible to eliminate from our economy if fiat currencies are allowed to persist. His movement, called the Murabitun, quickly became popular and attracted many people from around the globe, one of whom, a Spanish convert to Islam, Omar Ibrahim Badillo, was to go on to become the leading proponent and architect of the global gold dinar movement as we know it today.
Islam is simple and yet very powerful, and it's very simple things that we need to do in order to come together. And in its simplicity, if you go back to the 5 pillars of Islam, in our view, the restoration of zakat plays a crucial point in the reestablishment of Islam as a whole. Zakat has to be paid to an emir, amirate. This is fundamental, and it has to be paid not in paper money or any debt, what in Arabic called dain. You have to pay it with gold and silver, or merchandise, tangible merchandise. The collection of zakat, according to what is acceptable, is in itself a revolutionary tool that it will change the way the Muslims are and they come together. It will, for example, establish a new currency based on gold and silver, that it will replace the present monetary system, which is a banking system, is a usurious one. It has to be eliminated in order for us to establish Islam.
The Murabitun of Sheikh Abdul Qadir as-Sufi achieved the singular distinction of commencing the second phase and revival of the Sunnah currency of gold dinar by establishing the World Islamic Mint, and under auspices of the Muslims of Grenada, minting the first gold dinar coins. After a gap of more than half a century, the prophetic sunnah of using gold currency had been re-established, and there was no going back now. The gold dinar movement quickly gained appeal among the Muslims. Many rulers were also approached who tentatively agreed to officially adopt the gold dinar in their countries. This included Necmettin Erbakan, the then Prime Minister of Turkey under the Rifah Party, and the Sultan of Morocco. But unfortunately, circumstances did not permit both of them to hold on to their promise. In the meantime, in 1995, the first gold dinar coins had by now hit the streets of Malaysia, and people at the grassroots level had started adopting them for savings and trade. A whole literature gradually developed on the dinar economy, beginning with Omar Ibrahim Badillo's publication of The Return of the Gold Dinar from Cape Town, South Africa. With extensive references to the Muwatta of Imam Malik, it explained in detail the Islamic rulings of using debt-based fiat currencies, and systematically debunked the arguments of Islamic banking apologists. In the following year, Omar Ibrahim had a landmark meeting with President Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia and presented to him his white paper on the gold economy. As Omar Ibrahim was compiling his case based on Sharia law, many Western and secular economists themselves independently arrived at the same conclusions as we had learned from the Quran and Sunnah: the beneficial effects to economic stability and growth by adopting commodity money. Known in the academic world as the Austrian School of Economics, it featured leading proponents like Ludwig von Mises and the Nobel laureate in economics Friedrich Hayek. The Austrian school has since then systematically debunked many of the false objections and mistaken myths that are raised so often against gold and silver currencies, very often by indoctrinated finance students or those with a vested interest in the current riba-based system. As the dinar movement gained momentum, President Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia became one of its most high-profile proponents. Unable to institute the recommended changes during his office, he still continues to attend seminars and express his support for the movement, including being the guest of honor at the first World Riba Conference in 2010. Bereft of government support from any quarter, or even from any established Islamic banking or finance establishment, the gold dinar movement slowly continued to take root in the people of Malaysia and Indonesia. In 1998, the Islamic Mint Nusantara was established in Indonesia, catering to the local demand of dinars and dirhams. It is operated on partial waqf basis and is gradually developing a mobile-based dinar and dirham payment system called Dinar First. In the same year, another success was achieved at the political level when the Islamic Party of Malaysia PAS became the first political party to openly endorse the gold dinar. Realizing the needs of the modern fast-paced business environment, an electronic payment system based on the gold dinar called e-Dinar Limited was launched from Malaysia in the year 2000, followed closely by large-scale production of dinars by the Islamic Mint Dubai. By 2009, the coin turnover of e-Dinar surpassed a massive 150,000 pieces per annum. Along with these practical initiatives, work on creating awareness and educating the masses also kept going, with a high-profile seminar, Gold in Multilateral Trade, conducted in Kuala Lumpur and hosted by Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad.
I propose the gold dinar. Today's settlement of international trade is through the US dollar. The US dollar has got no value whatsoever. It has no backing, it has no reserves, it has no gold. But we accept it as if it has some
also
value.
minted its first batch of gold dinars in 2003, and the Far East quickly became the hub of all gold dinar activity at that time, with the University Sans Malaysia in Penang setting up a dedicated gold dinar research group representing academic recognition of the dinar movement, followed by widespread publications. The dinar movement was also strongly endorsed by many eminent ulema and religious scholars, most notable being Sheikh Imran Hussein.
And so the two things which are common are, number one, all six were used as money. And number two, in every case, the money had intrinsic value. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Sunnah money. You never heard of it before. You heard about the Sunnah, it's the beard. You heard about Sunnah, Salat. But you never heard about Sunnah money before. First time. What is Sunnah money? Sunnah money is either precious metals or commodities. And Sunnah money is money which has intrinsic value. I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you will never go astray. The Book of Allah and my Sunnah. And this is also his Sunnah. And we've abandoned it today. This is riba. We will explain to you how it is riba. But wait a minute. This money, which is Sunnah money, is it also in the Quran? I mean, did we abandon the Quran as well? Oh, that would be terrible. So let's go to the Quran and see. When Yusuf alayhi salam was in the well, Surah Yusuf, وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. And they sold him for a few measly dirhams. What is this word dirham? A dirham is a silver coin, precious metals. And then there is this ayah also in the Quran, in Surah Ali Imran. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ. But amongst them there are those who, if you give him a dinar, a gold coin,
In Pakistan, the very first person to point out the ills of the Western economic system and suggest a reformation toward the riba-free Islamic model was none other than its founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah himself.
Let us on this day humbly thank God for His bounty and pray that we might be able to prove
in
that we are
1948,
worthy of.
at the most befitting occasion of the inauguration ceremony of the State Bank of Pakistan, he said, "I shall watch with keenness the work of your research organization in evolving banking practices compatible with Islamic ideals of social and economic life. The economic system of the West has created almost insoluble problems for humanity. We must work our destiny in our own way and present to the world an economic system based on true Islamic concept of equality of manhood and social justice. We will thereby be fulfilling our mission as Muslims and giving to humanity the message of happiness and prosperity of mankind." But it was 60 years after he laid down this vision that his dream started to become a reality when the Dinar movement came to Pakistan. In 2009, Pakistan's very first commercial enterprise devoted to the gold dinar was established with the name E-Gold Private Limited. As would be evident to sound money advocates, the inspiration for this name was drawn by the pioneering company of Dr. Douglas Jackson of Florida. E-Gold offers not only the sale of dinar and dirham coins, but also depository services for safekeeping of the dinars and secure electronic transactions through its website. Unlike Western gold investment initiatives that are incorporated in offshore tax havens, E-Gold is registered in Pakistan and is fully compliant with local laws while allowing people to transact business in dinars and dirhams. In another recent development, an internal document was circulated by the Dallas chapter of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, encouraging the party to officially adopt the gold dinar. It is yet to be seen if the gold dinar movement can gain mainstream support from any religious or political party in Pakistan. Indonesia, however, became the de facto capital of the dinar movement, where the movement's founder and chief architect, Omar Ibrahim, established the Wakala Induk Nusantara, the central body for dinar and dirham distribution, working under the auspices of the World Islamic Mint. A novel structure of loosely connected independent wakalas or dinar agencies were set up in order to reach greater penetration in the society. And it was here, on the islands of Nusantara, that the usage of the gold dinar in its true ultimate vision as medium of exchange in day-to-day transactions was realized at the grassroots level. There are now more than 75 local wakalas affiliated with Wakala Induk Nusantara, including some as far away as Australia and Singapore, distributing thousands of coins.
It's hard to get an exact figure at the moment, but in the last 10 years, probably it's more than 50,000 coin has been distributed. There is an equality of exchange, equal to equal. In other words, it can only be met by exchanging commodity with commodity. So if you want to exchange a head of gold, then you need, or you must get as an exchange other commodity that has a similar value, and that can be best served by gold or silver. Paper money doesn't serve that equality, because one party lose an asset, let's say a head of gold, and the other party just get a piece of paper, which has no value. When we minted the dinar for the first time, 9 years ago, it was only worth 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, these 4 pieces, about 400,000 rupiah. Today, you need 15 pieces of this paper money, 1,500,000 rupiah to get 1 dinar. 1,500 years ago, 1 dinar equals to 2 heads of gold. And today, if you go everywhere in the world, you can buy 2 heads of gold with 1 gold dinar, right? While a coin of dirham, the silver coin, you can have 1 head of chicken. Some people see it like a story of this king with no clothes, right? So when everybody see that the king was wearing very beautiful clothes, but in fact he wears no clothes, until a small boy said, look, the king has no clothes. It's the same thing with this paper money, that we are told that this is wealth, which has a values on it, until someone says, look, this is just a piece of paper, no value on it. So, right, so if you cut like this, look, 100,000 and it's gone. Where's the 100,000? And magically, if you put a cello type on it, the 100,000 rupiah came back. Only by putting a cello type on it, people will accept it again. It's very magical. It's magic. This one is the real one. The banking system is the crime, and the bankers are the criminal. The current system is taken for granted as the only system available. It is not only unsustainable, it is unjust, and it's collapsing. So we have to find the better alternative. We have it. In Islam, you have to prevent wealth to be circulated among the rich. And what is happening today is that the wealth, the real wealth, which is gold and silver, are only sitting amongst the wealth vault, while the people are getting the worthless paper money. Now what we are doing is reverse the process. We return the paper money to the banking system and take out the gold and circulate it to the hands of the people. Now the people will have the real wealth within their hands.
Just like the credit card display signs, shops are now putting up the "We Accept Dinar" stickers on their windows. One of the movement's greatest moments of triumph, however, came in August 2010. After many years of activism, negotiations, and preparation, Omar Ibrahim Video managed to win support from the government of the Malaysian state of Kelantan, which adopted the gold dinar as the official state currency, alongside the Malaysian ringgit. Special coins were minted under the global overseeing body for all dinar and dirham coin products, the World Islamic Mint. These coins possessed enhanced security features and came embossed with the state emblem and government of Kelantan inscribed on them. In its launching ceremony, for the first time after many decades, zakat was again distributed by a Muslim government in Sharia currency, and state employees were given the option to receive a percentage of their salaries in the gold dinar. The event was covered. The event was covered by leading financial news networks around the world, and the Wall Street Journal wrote, if there's a utopia being formed for the globe's gold bugs, it's happening in a few unexpected outposts in the Muslim world like Kelantan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a great occasion, in an historical moment when the dinar and the dirham of Islam, known as the Sharia currency, is going to again be used in Muslim lands. From the beginning of Islam until the end of the Caliphate, the currency of Islam consisted of gold and silver coins, known to us as the dinar and the dirham. Their weight is known, and the standards are established by Omar ibn al-Khattab. That is the weight of the mithqal for the dinar, and the weight of 7/10 of the mithqal for the dirham. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the dinar and He mentions the dirham in Quran, our ulama have known these two coins as the Sharia currency. 1,000 shops today accept dinar and dirham in the city of Kota Baru. The government has undertaken to offer on a voluntary basis the payment of 25% of the salaries in gold, dinar and silver dirham. And the most important of all, the matter for which this day will pass to history, is because zakat will be paid once again with the gold dinar. As you know, zakat must be paid in ayn. Ayn means tangible merchandise, like rice, like gold, like silver. And it cannot be paid using any debt or liabilities. By bringing the gold dinar and paying the zakat with gold dinar, we are bringing back again the sunnah of paying the zakat using the gold dinar and the silver dirham of the Sharia. And this event is an event that it will be heard throughout all the Muslim world, because the dinar and the dirham is not only the currency of Kelantan. The dinar and the dirham is the currency of all the ummah. In Kota Baru, as well as in Jakarta, as it is in Medina or Mecca, in Karachi or Rabat, one gold coin, one gold dinar is the same. And in the same way that the euro represents the currency of the European Union, the gold dinar and the silver dirham represent the union.
The Kelantan launch created a domino effect in the region, with the Sultan of Sulu expressing his own interest to follow suit. Sheikh Abdul Qadir described it as the single most historic moment for the Muslim Ummah in the 21st century.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I send all my greetings to the dear friends and the great community of the Muslims of Malaysia. This is a very important day. In fact, you cannot overestimate how important a day it is. If one is to be historically correct, this is the most important day since the abolition of Sultaniya among the Osmanli. You must know that Omar Pasha Haj Omar Badinio has been working on this matter not for a few years, but for almost 2 decades. He started this matter by taking the Muwatta, observing its rules, and translating them, let us say, into application within the modern financial system that we have. It was this tremendous work which he has pursued in deep consultation with fuqaha, learned fuqaha, until the point where he arrived at the understanding that the strictures on usury apply to the whole banking system mutatis mutandis. And this took him to the recognition of the necessity to revive the golden dinar and the silver dirham, which are the necessaries for the collection of zakat. Now, the decision of the government of Kelantan, working with Omar Pasha as their financial advisor and guide and designer, this historical day has arrived. You must understand that this is the first time that a Muslim state has decreed the minting of what is the sunnah and also the practical solution to the disaster of finance capitalism, which is presently engulfed the whole world.
Allahu Akbar, Allah, Allah, Allahu Akbar.
The gold dinar movement has also reached the United Kingdom, with a dinar exchange set up there in partnership with e-Dinar and Wakala Nusantara. Local dinar agents are currently active in Birmingham, Edinburgh, Sheffield, London, and Glasgow, and public awareness is being created by conducting road shows so people can feel and touch the dinars in their hands and also learn about them.
The total value of the yearly sales of real goods everywhere in the world changes hand on the money markets every single day. There would not be enough paper to make so much money, even if all the timber on the planet was used to do it. And if the notes to make such a sum were placed one on top of the other, the pile would reach beyond the moon.
This paper is only worth the paper is printed on. You know, where it says $1 or $100, it doesn't really matter. It's just a fancy design and a figure. It doesn't mean anything.
There is no person on the earth who does not now live and die in debt, whether they know it or not.
If the Muslims do not move over to gold and silver, they're going to go down with the ship. I was at a Financial Times conference on Islamic finance last November, and they had very eloquent speakers. They had one of the main speakers from the UBS, which is one of the main banks in Geneva. He said, look, let's face it, Islamic banking is just a veneer. He said, beneath all this publicity, it's based on a raft of financial instruments which are not Sharia compliant, i.e. they're haram. And those in turn are based on another raft of financial instruments which are not Sharia compliant.
But there's nothing we can do about it, I hear people say. We have no other alternative. That is no longer true. We do have a choice. There is something that we can do, but that something can only be found within the parameters of a functioning Muslim community. Islam alone is now able to uphold the authority of divinely revealed law and provide the means for cutting through the magical deception of the usurer's all-enveloping web. The gold dinar will put economic power back into the hands of ordinary men and women where it belongs.
Board the ship of the Sunnah and be rescued by it. And as far as economics is concerned, the gold and the silver is the answer. This gold dinar is the answer. This silver dirham is the answer.
This is Islam in practice. This is divine guidance in action. What you see is what you get.
These were minted back in the last century, back in about 1995, I think. At that time, this gold dinar you could buy for £35. Now, if I want to sell it, it's £135. Allah says in the Quran, Allah and His Messenger have made war on riba. Now, who has won any war against Allah and His Messenger? No one. No one has won that war. Whatever war you're talking of, Allah and His Messenger have always been victorious. If they hadn't been victorious, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
So this thing is not going to happen overnight, but it requires our participation and it requires urgent action. So on a step-by-step basis, what in fact needs to happen is that there needs to be availability of gold and silver from city to city, town by town, in the whole of the United Kingdom, so that we have the availability of people that can transact and they can exchange their paper, their worthless paper, into valuable gold and silver, which is protected by time.
I am not afraid to stand alone. I am not afraid to stand alone. If Allah is by my side, I am not afraid to stand alone. Everything will be alright. I am not afraid.
From as far back as the 1700s, Muslims have been an integral part of the American community.
I'm a Muslim. If there is something wrong with that, then I stand condemned. My religion is Islam. I believe in Allah. I believe in Muhammad as the apostle of Allah. I believe in brotherhood of all men.
And so it was that the indigenous Muslims of America, much more than the immigrant community leaders, were the first ones to recognize the common thread that bound their faith with the ideals and principles set forth by the Founding Fathers. Almost 100 years ago, Ustad Muhammad Izzeddin set up an organization, the Adenu Ilahi Universal Arabic Association, that is now represented by Jamia Masjid Baitul Khaliq in New Jersey. They have initiated a project called Emirate America and have minted their own 10.5 dirham coin.
Emirate America is to be established to incorporate and to unambiguously reflect an ideal Islamic society without extremism. As Americans, without injury to any other Americans, to develop, to dwell, and sustain such a living environment in a chosen area which shall reflect the quality of life dear and true to the aforesaid ideal. Master Beta Collects and Emirate America's 10.5 dirham. This historical Islamic coin is a valuable hand-polished proof coin.
Another dinar initiative has been started by a division of the World Morabitun movement by the name of Blackstone Foundation in North Carolina. They are developing open markets according to Islamic muamalat and also adopting the dinar and dirham within the ranks of their community.
I think there's another thrust now. I think that it's matured now, and the things we're putting forward, some people didn't quite understand them, but 10 years later, people now understand everything we were saying. A lot of people do. So I think now it's a time for us to take the lead again, if you like.
The dinar is the Sharia currency of the Muslims. it's been the traditional currency of the Muslims for the last 1,400 some odd years. It was established, first during the time with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was formally established and weight standards made during the time of Caliph Marwan Abdul Malik. For 1,400 years, the Muslims used the gold dinar at the weight of 4.25 grams of gold, and they used the silver dirham at the weight of 2.9995 of silver as their medium of exchange. Historically, this was the currency of the Muslims. This was the medium of exchange. Imam Malik, rahmatullah, he said, a medium of exchange is any medium chosen by the people that has intrinsic value. So the dinar and the dirham represent ayn wealth. And we know that this means something that has intrinsic value, inshallah.
Is there a dinar or dirham that exists right now?
Yes, you have several different mints throughout the world that are minting and circulating and using the dinar and dirham. In America, we now have Dinar Wakala, who will be working hand in hand with several emirs throughout America and minting the gold dinar and the silver dirham for the purposes of bartering and for the purposes of paying zakat, for the purpose of investment, and various other things.
A third initiative coming out of Austin, Texas is Dinar Wakala, which offers the sale of dinar and dirham coins, and are also developing a bullion depository institution to be called a Wakala, which is the Arabic for agency. In America, the dinar movement is cooperating with another local sound money initiative, the American Open Currency Standard. The AOCS is inspired by the visionary founder of Liberty Dollar, Bernard von Nothaus, and is working to galvanize all the followers of sound money to come together and implement a working specie-based barter system in America. The AOCS certified mints have already produced numerous gold and silver coins for use in its merchant network, and the silver dirham is soon to be a newest addition to its diversified lineup. Looking at all these global initiatives, we see today that the gold dinar movement has reached an unstoppable momentum, with the Ummah wholeheartedly embracing the currency of Medina, the gold dinar. It is an idea whose time has come. It is not only a sunnah of the Holy Prophet, but also our only hope to establish a riba-free financial system in modern times. Come, join our hands and embrace the gold dinar movement. A movement that has no national boundaries, no political, sectarian, or personal agendas. It is a spontaneous reaction of the learned of the Ummah to stand up and practically adopt a riba-free medium of exchange in their lives. The freedom and ability to use gold and silver as a medium of exchange is your basic religious and human right. And being a sunnah of the Holy Prophet, no government or territorial authority on Muslim lands has any right to prevent you from doing so. The decision to discard usury and adopt the Islamic gold dinar is now in your hands alone. Choose wisely. Choose Allah and His Book. Choose the sunnah of the Prophet. Choose the gold dinar. And let those who are working to revive it rejoice in the blessed words of the Holy Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Whoever revives an aspect of my sunnah after it has been abandoned, he will have a reward equivalent to that of the people who follow him, without detracting in the least from their reward.
خلقت مبرأ